everybody. Welcome to the Lazy Lab Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Kuchera, and we're a special edition here. We're at the Army-Navy game, or Navy-Army game. I don't know how Army-Navy game. All right, so we're at the Army-Navy game, and I got my special guest here. Before I jump into anything too crazy with the show, I just want to make sure we give a quick shout-out to Allegiance Flag Supply, Ubora Coffee Roasters and Athletic Brewing Company, Pendulum Meats, and E3 Ranch & Co. Those are our sponsors for the show. They provided us with all kinds of great stuff, flags and the coffee, the caffeine to fuel this event that we're doing here today. Lots of great things going on. We got the cornhole, we got the footballs flying all over the place. Although the kids here can't catch, they got hands like frying pans. We got Athletic Brewing Co. with the non-alcoholic beer. If that's what you're into, we got Pendulum Meats provide us with steaks and bacon, and can't do an event without bacon. So we got that going on. The E3 Ranch & Co. Thank you everyone so much for the sponsorship of the show, and special thanks to David DeRosiers as well. Our co-founder and chairman of the board, and Lieutenant Commander John Brayman. These guys have helped out tremendously with special projects, coordinating all the logistics, getting the stuff here. You know, you can have all that meat from our sponsors, but if you don't have anything to cook it with, you know, you're kind of up a creek, if you will. So thank you so much to them for helping us with the tailgate and make sure everything happens. So with that being said, I got Eric and Tyler with me today, and I'm just going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves. You've heard about me, you know me from the podcast. We'll let them introduce themselves, talk about themselves for a little bit, and we'll jump into some questions after that. So
good.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having us. First of all, like, super honored that Lazy Lab put all this on. It's incredible. Looking forward to Navy winning by 90 today, so it should be a really, really not close game.
I hope that's true.
Yeah,
I hope that
really
happens.
hope that's true. We need a win. But I'm Tyler Goebel, originally from Plymouth, Michigan. Did not think for a second I was going to be in the military. I don't know about Eric, but
no,
that was the farthest thing from anything I was going to be doing.
My parents are foreigners, so
yeah,
never
exactly.
even thought about it. I'm first generation American. Yeah,
exactly. And so, the Naval Academy came calling to play football.
Okay.
And since I was 7, that's kind of what I wanted to do with my life. I want to be a college football player. And so,
who was your recruiting coach?
Coach Judge. Yeah.
Coach Judge. He was my coach. So his first year was he came on and coached fullbacks, and now he's at Miami Dolphins now.
He is. Yeah, he's big time.
He's doing well with the tight ends.
No, so. Coach Judge was the man.
So where did you play high school ball?
So I was from Plymouth, Michigan. So
Michigan.
I played for the fierce Plymouth Wildcats. State runner-up, 2010.
Right
we
on.
kind of blew it in that game, but it's all right.
Whose fault was it? You can say it here.
Man, I would say it was my fault. I got a high ankle sprain the week before, and so I was
it's like
in a
breaking your
boot.
leg.
Yeah, I was in a boot.
What position did you play in
inside
high school?
linebacker.
Inside linebacker.
I played that at Navy as well.
Okay.
And so went there, graduated in 2016, commissioned in the Marine Corps, infantry officer. Have been in for a little over 5 years at this point.
Okay.
Still currently active duty. And switched from being in the infantry, got a new set of orders, to being a full-time nerd. I was just telling you guys about data science master's degree, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And so
big-time nerd.
Learn how to code and all that kind of stuff. But so I mean, that's me to this point. So getting ready to move out here to the Virginia area in June to work at headquarters Marine Corps. So
belated happy birthday to the Marine Corps.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you're probably still sleeping off the hangover. So, but very, very cool stuff. And Eric?
Eric Catani, born and raised Kirtland, Ohio, turned outside Cleveland, Ohio. Played football, running back. And then I also played linebacker, too. I should have played linebacker, I think.
Yeah.
I was better at linebacker. But Naval Academy, class 09, selected service warfare. And then deployed for a bit, South America, did a lot of drug ops, military relations down there. Got out of the active duty, played in the NFL for 5 years. Patriots, Redskins, Chiefs, Jaguars, and then I was PAO. Then I did some recruiting for the Navy. Got out full-time in the Navy 2 years ago.
Okay.
I did 10 years of total service, and now own an art business called Paint True, a government contracting business, which we supply assets to the VAs, State Department, FEMA, everybody
right
else.
on.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So,
very cool stuff.
I podcast myself as well.
Do you? What's the name of the show? Let's shameless plug here.
Yeah, Navy Football Podcast with Keenan Reynolds.
Yeah, that was my quarterback.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, he scored a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, he did pretty well. He
He's
did all right.
actually over there. He's with USA today. I just got on the phone with him.
So these are like good years. I'm sorry to interrupt, but these are like the good years where Navy's winning the Commander-in-Chief trophy, right?
I
was undefeated.
I never lost.
Never lost the.
Yeah, I've 14 years in a row.
Never
Right
lost.
on.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Decade of dominance.
So we could just digress for a minute. What's going on right now? Because the Army's got us. They've got a run going right now.
They're doing all right. I mean, you got to give them a chance. You don't want the rivalry to die.
They won the last 4 games by I think 12 points total.
Right.
Like, we missed a field goal. We could have won.
Yeah.
Last year they could get the ball in on the half-inch line.
Yep.
That switches the game completely forever. So I don't know.
Yeah. So you're kind of giving them a little bit of room to breathe, if you will, so that they continue to show up.
As Keenan said in the podcast, Army's like our little brother. We know we can beat all the time, and like sometimes he wins. You're like, thanks, buddy. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, to Army's credit, my senior year we were ranked 17th in the country. We went 11-2.
You guys are really good.
We had a really good team.
Wow.
Linebackers weren't very good though.
Linebackers were probably the best in the country. I'd say.
Edge rushers, yes, but inside, I heard it was tough.
We were really good. We only beat them 17-14. I think they had won 2 games that year.
Wow.
So this game is like a coin flip when it comes to. It don't matter. Like, it's going to be a bar fight. So
the spread's 7 right now. Army's favored. I think over/under's like 34.
Yep.
So
I would bet the under on points for sure. Like, it's going to be a low-scoring game.
I think you're right.
I interviewed Roger Staubach and Tom Lynch this week.
How are they doing?
Their memory and the recall of like the games they played in the 1960s.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Roger's like, threw 2 touchdowns, ran for 2, threw a 63-yard. I'm like, well, how do you
know that?
Yes.
How do you do you recall those types of details about the games you played just a few years ago?
I recall like small things like that, but then I think the concussions caught me a little bit. But I recall a lot of the memories, but they're very like on point with every small detail. So it's impressive.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Now, I got to ask because, I think you both served. Football had a lot to do with, like, why you took an appointment to the United States Naval Academy.
Yep.
You talked about deployment. How many deployments do you go on? How did that impact you? What are the, what are some of the changes that you saw in yourself post-deployment?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was getting into active duty time when like Afghanistan, Iraq were really winding down. It was like the deployments to those kinds of places were more special operations forces, smaller units.
You were 15 years post the invasion, right? Because you're 16.
That's right,
okay,
class of 16. So when I went there, my unit, I was with 3-6. They were actually in Syria. Where they set the world record for a number of artillery rounds shot into a city. So they burned out multiple howitzer tubes while they were on that deployment and came back from that. And other than a couple of units here and there in the Marine Corps, no one's really going to Afghanistan or Iraq anymore. So what we did was we did a full 18-month, 24-month workup and then went to Japan and the Philippines for 6 months. And so
were you there recently?
2018.
Were you there with
2019
Grizzly Company from Hawaii at all?
There's a lot of Hawaii Marines that are out there.
My
most
friend,
likely.
Naval player Eric Montgomery.
Okay.
Major Montgomery. He was out there for a while.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the Philippines. So a lot of the training that I've done and the deployment I did for the Marine Corps was training Filipino Marine Corps units that were going into a place called Mindanao in the Philippines and fighting ISIS down there. And so that's what kind of the mission was for us. But I never went to any sort of combat zone or anything like that. Yep.
ISIS tentacles.
That's right. Yeah. I don't know about you, Eric, though.
I was deployed to South America right in 2010. So I graduated TAD up in Naps, which I enjoyed thoroughly. Up in Newport, and then got sent on a ship right away. Get my SWOP in like 11 months. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So, I mean, do you feel like in any way, shape, or form, like being part of this rivalry, being part of a service academy football team, did that like transcend the sport a little bit and like give it a little sort of a different meaning? And I know it's probably a sort of a cliche or a cheesy type question, but we're talking about deployment. We're talking about how it's changed us. It's the men that you played football with. You guys went on to serve. You guys went on to do these things in different units and lead men and women into these really adverse situations. did football kind of help shape your mindset and like how you approach that? Did you take a football leadership approach to the way you led the men and women of the United States Navy?
Yeah, for me, football is always always changing and transitioning, right? Like there's like football is you pick a play, but then you have to react to it. So like for leadership, for me especially, like the Naval Academy teaches you how to be a leader, but like you're not actually like thrown into a large leadership role until you graduate. So for me, like I always form my leadership, and my leadership's still changing now. Like the guys I led when I was 22 years old, you have to figure out who they are, what they like, how to move that person versus like now I'm owning a business, working with people in the civilian world, the civilian sector. It's completely different.
It is.
So for me in football, like I always take that like as a quarter, right? Like, hey, like this is like react, change, move on for and make your adjustments. So that's how I take leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I joined the Marine Corps Infantry because I thought it would be like the locker room.
Yeah,
and it was. It was exactly what it was. It was like, man, like I got some guys that, some grunts that went and did their 4 years, got out, and they're trying to play college ball right now. And it's like I see his highlight tape, and I'm like, dude, that's great, man. Like, because this, like. You're in the military, you've got guys that are like, I would have been at USC, but I tripped at the tryout and I didn't get picked up. But like some of my guys have followed through on their commitments, and like one of them was playing some ball somewhere.
There was one guy, I read the Navy, America's Navy did a special on him. He's a Navy SEAL, big dude, went to Nebraska.
Okay, I saw that,
He's killing it in the weight room, and like he's like
a beast.
Rookie 26. Destroying the weight room, but now he's actually getting playing time because like there's a difference in being like fast, strong to athletic.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then it's also football athletic.
Yeah.
Like you can be a phenomenal CrossFit athlete, and you can't
do anything out of football. Yeah.
The straight lines is different. So
yeah. But to answer your question, like I think football has molded me as a leader more than anything, and like that's what when you have a platoon of Marines, about 50 or so guys, you always have an initial counseling with them when you first meet them, get to know them, and my guidance was like, hey, I'm going to try and run this thing like a football team. Like I'm basically your offensive or defensive coordinator, and I'm just going to give you guys the plays, and you go out and execute. And that's kind of what the role of an officer is just kind of hopefully put your folks in the right position to make the plays that they kind of need to make. So
it's great to hear you say that, like from both of you, right? Because I feel like there's so many men and women who've served, they watch something like this, and they just wonder, you sit back and you think, like, I wonder if it's like that, like, is that how they were in the locker room? Is that, do they, or is it not? Because I see the smile on Tyler's face here. Maybe it's a little toned back because it's a professional environment, but at the same time, like, you do kind of treat those situations sort of like a coordinator. You want to be there to give them this, the tools they need to be successful, right? You want to.
Most of the guys have all the fun too. Like the officers don't have any fun,
right?
It's funny. I've appreciated our coaches a lot more because that's the role we really transition to once you become an officer. Like when you're playing on the team, like you're the one in the game. Like you're the one running out of the tunnel. You're doing all that stuff. As an officer, you're not playing in the game anymore. If you're playing in the game, something's seriously wrong.
Yeah,
like, if your coach is getting in there and strapping it up, like everything's wrong. So
that reminded me of a Coach Johnson. You remember Coach Johnson?
Yeah,
Coach Johnson was a long time ago, and he was he told it how it was. And one guy that should not have been playing, he's like, if you ever find yourself in a game, call a timeout because someone messed up. Yeah. And I'm like, oh god.
That's the one where like everyone kind of looks the other direction, right? Like, oh, geez.
No, I've got some good gems of things that were said in the film room, but
not for the podcast.
So
not for the podcast.
Coach Belichick's never putting the hat on and getting out there with the guys, or is he?
Coach Belichick was awesome. One of the best coaches ever. So the great part about a leader, right, and like what Coach Belichick is, you're going to get every day.
Yeah.
And you're going to get is hard practice, hard film room, and I walked in there every day thinking I was going to get cut.
Yeah.
Because like I was a bubble guy, I was always in and out. So his leadership style is, you're going to get like, hey, practicing really hard, and you better show up. If you don't show up, you're going to cut.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of guys that are not, prima donnas, right? They can't play for that organization because it's not like when I left, I went to the Washington football team. And I show up, I'm in the locker room, and I'm like, practice is Tuesday. I'm like, okay, cool. It's like, full pads practice. So I go, like, find my shoulder pads, cool. Like, where are my my pants and my pads? And I'm like, they're not there. I go to the equipment room, like, hey, I need my pants and my pads. They're like, we don't wear those.
Wow.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't wear pants? He goes, we just wear shells all the time. I go,
what?
All the time?
Are you serious?
Is it Christmas?
Yeah, it's Christmas. And I'm like, because Navy wore pants every day. It's hard. I'm like, this is the best thing ever. It was 10 plays hard, offense, 10 plays hard defense, and then that was it. We took the shoulder pads off. I'm like,
that's incredible.
My longevity career could play forever.
We used to do a drill. It's called strike shed. And we would, I don't know if you remember that? Yeah. Did you ever do it as a fullback against the linebackers?
They wouldn't let me do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea because you would have concussed us.
No, Coach Niemann at the time, we only it was me and a couple of fullbacks. He's like, we can't afford to get you hurt. I'm like, I want to hit these guys. Yeah. The guys got hurt every time.
So the drill was you would line up 5 yards apart from a lineman, and you put a fullback right behind them.
Yes.
And you just collision this lineman as hard as you could and get off and tackle the fullback. But the thing is, there's usually only 5 or 6 guys in that line, and you were just churning like a washing machine for 10 minutes.
It was brutal.
And I don't know if anybody's ever done something for 10 minutes, but you can do a lot of stuff in 10 minutes.
You do a lot of stuff.
And so that was a bloodbath.
Yeah. We did that same drill in high school, and I played linebacker as well.
Yep.
And I remember one of our offensive linemen just planting me into the ground. I think I started to sprout flowers and stuff. I was gone, which is why I didn't play college football. That's brutal, man. What a tough sport, but it's really cool to hear the sort of the different approaches to leadership, different approaches to practice. But it sounds like there's this element of professionalism that you have to take into things that if you don't have that, you're gonna get cut, right? You're gonna get
these guys is knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And the older you get, too, it's like the smarter you are. Like, you're talking about being a nerd. Like, I'm a nerd, actually. Like, I'm a secret nerd. And, like, they're like, wait, you know how to do, like, Java and all. I'm like, I built my websites and everything else. Because, like, if you don't do yourself or don't learn yourself, like, you're not benefiting yourself as a person.
You can't fact check people
and,
either.
The thing with, like, football, right? The coaches keep you accountable.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, like, in the NFL, the coaches, GM, organization keep you accountable. In real life, no one's telling you to wake up and go work out. No one's telling you to wake up and go do that P&L sheet you don't want to do. If you don't do it, then you can't build where you want to build.
Yeah, it's 100%
so
true.
Accountability for is huge for me.
I think accountability is a huge word, period, right? It's something that we learn early in the military, and I think that it carries through. So you had it probably in the academy, you probably had it on the football field. You're accountable to the people around you. That carries forward even more intensely when you start to serve, right? You're accountable to the men and women to your left and right for your own life and for their life. And if you don't do a job,
that's true accountability.
That's around
in the chamber.
I mean, you got other people's families at stake too. Like even I think a lot of guys in my generation, like we start talking about deployments, right? And what do I talk about? It's like, well, I never went to a combat zone and stuff like that. And I think there's a stigma for dudes that are in my generation that never did the Iraq deployment, never did the Afghanistan deployment. But they still have very meaningful roles in the lives of the guys that they're leading. Even if you're not an officer, like even your NCOs and stuff like that, like it's important. Like
100%.
I've got guys that will still reach out to me randomly and be like, need a letter of recommendation for like a job or something like that. And it's like, don't underestimate the impact you're having, even though you're not getting shot at, you're not shooting people. Like that's not, at the end of the day, like you're having a huge impact. It's just a different way.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, look, I was a military training instructor for 5.5 years. It's the Air Force version of a drill instructor, right?
Yeah.
And to that point, like
you don't seem like one, by the way.
I'll take that as a compliment. I'll take it as a compliment. Yeah, it's that's the ultimate. Isn't that ultimate professionalism, though? Right? It's like I can turn it on and off, right? So, but that's to that point, you still have people reaching out to you, and that's how you kind of made an impact.
The people that make an impact on you, it's like, who's that list? I forgot it was. It's like if you're a leader, like most people are not gonna like you because like being a leader and like telling people like, hey, like. We're not taking this day off at work. We're working this day. Or, hey, like, we had to stay late extra to do this. They're not going to like you, but at the end of the day, like, they're going to respect you because, like, they should respect you.
Yeah.
The decision that, hey, like, you are put in this role. This is the bigger mission. You should be seeing that bigger picture.
Yeah. And my wife and I, we run a real estate company as well. And, like, from a civilian perspective, like, no one likes being held accountable, period. Like, you don't like getting told that you're jacked up.
No.
But a leadership's role is to have those tough conversations and actually have them before stuff festers into something that's no longer viable.
It's probably the best feedback you can get.
I always learn, like, for like a tough conversation, I always preface it, like, this is going to be a hard conversation.
Yep.
And I'm like, and this is probably something you're not going to really want to hear, but we have to have this conversation move forward. So
that's setting expectations, right? It's like this is a very important part of anything you go into. You should level set and say, hey, because what causes conflict is that surprise, right?
Yep.
Like, I'm surprised by what you're telling me right now. But if you started off with, hey, this can be a tough conversation.
Yeah.
Mismanaged expectations.
Yeah, you're managing their expectations.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you're right. That's very, very true.
I think it's super critical to like being successful. Speaking of that, like you guys are hard charging, right? You've had success not just on the football field, in the academy, in your professional careers. What would you say drives that, and what advice would you give to the men and women watching this today, like that did serve, that are maybe having a hard time, maybe they're going through some stuff based off of their service or based off the adversity that they've faced, in their life? Like, what would you tell them about what kept you going in the hard times and what kept you going to keep you on track, to keep you pushing?
You want to go first?
Sure. I mean, for me, you've got to have an extrinsic, like a motivation for what you're doing outside of yourself. Like, if you're really just doing stuff for your own personal gain, it's just not going to be enough to keep you going when you're having to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day for 4 months straight to get something up and off the ground. Like, you need to find a mission that you're passionate about.
Your why.
And go after that as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And like, for me, like, I'm in a set of orders right now where I'm just getting a master's degree, right? And so I've had a little bit of time to kind of decompress from the like 14, 15-hour work days of the Marine Corps infantry, right? And so what my wife and I have done is we've launched a real estate company, but in my mind, I'm sure you've got a lot of buddies bought houses where they were stationed, all that kind of stuff, and their retirement plan from the military was to just buy a house somewhere, rent it out, just keep doing that all over the place, right? Just kind of pretty standard.
That's right.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that might be smart, right?
Yeah.
And so that was my wife and I, and we were thinking, you know what, we like real estate, we think it's fun. It would be cool to just buy something and rent it out, and then we can get out of the Marine Corps eventually and have a little bit of a buffer, right?
Yeah.
But we sold a house in North Carolina when we were heading out to Monterey, California on this set of orders. And my wife and I have been married for a really long time, so if anybody needs like marriage advice, been about 2 years at this point. And so super long in the tooth. Any unsolicited advice that people need, I can hook you up with that. But we're trying to figure out where we want to be generous with our money. So my Marine Corps paycheck's easy because it comes in every now and then, like every 2 weeks. You just cut off your 10%, give it to the church, give it to a charity. It's not hard to figure out. But with real estate, that money kind of ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And so my wife's mother, so my mother-in-law, she runs an anti-human trafficking nonprofit out of Waco, Texas. And so my wife suggested, like, why don't we give to Unbound Now? That's the name of the nonprofit. And in my mind, I was like, okay, sure. I don't know if this nonprofit's like my mother-in-law in her garage, just like typing out a newsletter every now and then and sending it out. Like, what are they doing? I don't really know. But my wife suggested that. I was like, sure. Like, we're figuring out how we want to, like, as husband and wife, be generous with our money. And so we donated to Unbound about $2,500 off the proceeds of that. We gave some other money to like a homeless shelter or something like that, trying to figure out like what actually sticks. And my mother-in-law called us back after we had been able to give that money, and she was like, Tyler and Lindsay, just so you understand, like, for us, for $5,000, that employs somebody in a country like Mongolia for a year.
Yeah.
That just sits on the border between Mongolia and China and is snatching people out of slavery every day. You know, and it's like that's not that much money. Like, how much should we pay on an Army Navy tickets? Like,
no kidding.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a drop in the bucket for most Americans.
It's a currency.
You know,
it's a currency, right?
And so with that being said, that's what launched the vision for my wife and I, and what gives me some comfort knowing that when I do transition out of the Marine Corps, I've still got a mission to go after.
Sure.
Like, we're fighting human trafficking through real estate investing, and that's what our mission is.
That's great.
And like, my wife's full-time in it, my father-in-law's full-time in it, so it's a legitimate business, but it's not just about lining my wife and I's pockets. It's about doing something that's a little bit more impactful, and that you'll wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning as long as you have to, knowing that that's the kind of impact you can have with that nonprofit, you know?
Yeah.
And so my advice for folks that are like transitioning, and I think that kind of tying back to your question, is like, you need to have something outside of you that's motivating you. It may be cool to look on Instagram and see dudes flying around in Lambos and getting on private jets and doing all that kind of stuff, but I promise you that will run out after a couple months. It's not going to be a sustaining passion. And so I don't know if, I'm sure you probably have something similar, like, as far as a why. I know you were saying that at the beginning a little bit.
It's it's a hard question, right? Because like each person is intrinsically motivated different ways, right?
Yeah.
Like some people are motivated your way, some people are motivated with money, some people are motivated with flash, and it's just like it's for me. Like I just like working for myself and having that freedom.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like you can make $1 million a year to $150,000 a year or whatever it is, but as long as you have that access to freedom.
Yeah.
Because like I love the military and stuff, but for me it was always hard to have someone to check in with all the time.
Yep.
I'm like I love this, but I want to be able to wake up when I want to wake up, go to the gym, work. I can work from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. or 6 a.m. to 6, whatever I want, but I'm still getting the job done. So for me, it's that having that freedom helps me out.
Mm-hmm. I think it's first of all, I got out in 2019. I got out of the Air Force after 12 and a half years. I'm just like, okay, let's figure this thing out. And I think that it's what you both said is kind of important. Finding your why, finding the thing that's going to get you out of bed and make you want to work, and then being able to do that for yourself and not necessarily have to answer anyone. I think both of those things are really important parts of why we get out of the military, what we're looking for after the military, and what will help you. Finding your why is going to help you stay motivated and on the right path. You know, it's what afflicts a lot of veterans when they leave is not just dealing with the wounds of service and the things that they've gone through while they wore the uniform, but it's also dealing with the uncertainty, the unknown, and like, am I going in the right direction? Because what the military provides us is this sense of, hey, this is what we owe you. We owe you a schedule. You're going to be disciplined. You know what to expect. It's going to be the same thing, very much like Belichick. You know what you're getting in that coach, and it gives you that sense of like, okay, I feel like we're on the right track.
Yeah.
Right? And you lose a piece of that when you leave and take the uniform off. You lose that piece of, well, I'm responsible for providing that in my own life now.
Yep.
And so having that why really helps keep you on at least on course. You know, you're on the right vector, you're navigating to the right waypoint, like you know exactly the direction that you should be heading. So I think it's super important and really great advice, you know, for the folks watching. This is like great advice. Some of it may be what you've heard before in other places, but maybe hopefully put in a way that, you know, connects and allows you to move forward. Listen, we're here at the Army-Navy game, and it'd be a real foul of me to not talk about like what this rivalry means to you. Why do, you know, I'm an Air Force guy. I don't get it. I didn't go to the academies. I don't get it. Okay, so I want to hear, you know, from you. Understanding it may be a little bit favored or slanted towards the Navy side, just a smidge. But like, what does this rivalry mean? Like, why is it so important?
It's Army-Navy. That's all it is, man. It's like it is the most important game for once you come to the Naval Academy. The first thing I say is, you know, go Navy, beat Army. It's they ingrained it into your philosophy from day one. But it's not just us. It's bigger than us. It's, you know, it's the rivalry of the game, but it's also the game after the game. Because I know when I go to, you know, when I'm doing joint operations, when I was serving, like meeting people that played football. I was actually texting Alejandro Villanueva this morning, and I was at dinner last night with one of his friends that he was deployed with while he was deployed, and he was a Marine recon ranger. I was like, well, you know, Alejandro, he's with the Ravens now, and I know the story, and the connections that you make with all these people. You're like, this is bigger than just you and I or this conversation.
So when I hosted another podcast called Vet Pivot, I did 100 episodes of that, and one of the most popular episodes, Alejandro Villanueva, I had him on and talked,
awesome.
and he's a
rock star.
Yeah, he's a super cool guy.
He's like 6'12".
Cool guy.
He's like 18 feet tall.
He's 100 feet tall.
Large human being.
So,
big.
Sidebar, he and I was stationed at SHAPE when he was graduating from SHAPE in Belgium. So I was stationed there, active duty. He was in his senior year of high school at SHAPE International High School, and then he went off to West Point and did his thing. So it's just crazy small world. And here we are on two different sides. He's an NFL player for my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers at the time, and
he's a Ravens. Yeah, he got paid.
He's a Ravens. Well, I'm all for it. You know, I'm happy to see it. I wish the Steelers kept him around. But that's neither here nor there. He competed in this rivalry, so obviously he understands what it's all about.
Yep.
What about for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I know Eric you were kind of a big timer around here, man. Like you played a lot of football at Navy, like played some really significant snaps. I was my career here, I would describe myself as more of a guy who had a whole lot of want to, but not a lot of can do. I was a special teams guy, scrapping it up, right?
It's everybody.
But I'll tell you what, I feel like I had every single part of ownership of that team, just like the freshmen that were on scout team did, just like the starters, just like Keenan did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like everyone on those teams, the tight-knit, like, just brotherhood you have on a team like that. I didn't care if I played, which is insane to say. You know, I wanted to win. Like I didn't care. I blew my knee out the week before Army Navy, and didn't get to play in that game.
It's horrible.
But D. Jones, you probably remember D in the training room, one of our trainers.
She's awesome. She's done. She's
done.
Now,
She finally retired. Duct taped my knee up, right, and I was able to hobble out of the tunnel, and that meant more to me than playing the entire game, because I was there with my teammates, and I think that kind of environment is just kind of permeates through this game where everyone loves each other. Man, we don't like Army. We really don't like Air Force. But at the end of the day, like, those kinds of bonds, like the mutual suffering that you go through being on a football team like that, and then like the academies as a whole, it gives you some common ground when you go out in the operating forces and you're dealing with folks and you've got something to talk about, a shared experience. But also it just ingrains like the selflessness that you need to have graduating from a place like that. You need to be selfless. You need to put your guys above yourself. And I think football is just a perfect crucible to kind of purify that kind of stuff in your life. And yeah, I mean, came to the Naval Academy thinking I was way cooler than I was. Got humbled incredibly, right?
Sure.
And I wouldn't trade the amount of playing time I got. Like I got to actually play in a decent amount, but I was by no means a marquee name.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't trade that for the world. The stuff I learned through it. And I think the Army Navy game's kind of all the guys like that. It means a lot to us, and that's my favorite game we've won, 17-14 senior year Army Navy, and I don't know. It's just a good, wholesome, selfless game all around.
It's very cool. Obviously, anytime you get a glimpse into, sort of a sacred community or fraternity, if you will, I appreciate you guys giving some insight to us on what you. Yeah, absolutely. I just, from a closing comments perspective, what can Lazy Lab do for you? What would you like to gain from being on Lazy Lab and to the viewers?
Nothing. I appreciate everything you guys doing for having us on. Absolutely nothing. You guys are doing a phenomenal job, and I appreciate you allowing us to tell a story. That's it.
Right. Well, we definitely appreciate you. It's a great thing. I mean, anytime you get together, you can help lead men and women. You can help people who may be suffering, maybe going through a tough time. You can connect them to God at the same time. I think it's just like super important stuff that we need more of. Frankly, like in today's world, we need a little more loving people and a little less pointing the finger. And I think if we do that, we got a good thing cooking. So, with that said, I really appreciate Eric Tyler joining us on the Lazy Lab podcast. Thank you so much. This has been a real pleasure, and two class acts. I mean, I honestly thrill for me. Obviously, this is only the second live show that we've been able to do, like on location, and to be able to do that with you is, I think, really, really thrilled about it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cool
Appreciate it. And go Navy, beat Army, right? That's
maybe by
Army folks, forgive me, but I'm voting for the Air Force here. So thank you.